All right, guys, what's up? My name's Cam Mackey. I've been a commercial fashion photographer and filmmaker for over a decade now. When I first started, iPhone filmmaking wasn't really a thing. Now that we have, Apple Log and the image quality coming out of these freaking phones, it's so insane. And now we're seeing movies being shot on it. Apple's shooting all of their conventions and commercials all on the iPhone. With that, a lot of people, buy a phone thinking they're gonna be able to get cinematic, beautiful shots like that just because of the phone. It's not that simple though. So in this video, I wanna help educate you guys and show you some tricks and tips that I've learned over the past decade of my career and how I utilize it on a phone. The main thing you guys are gonna learn is just because it's a phone does not mean you have to treat it as a phone. That's gonna be the master tip. With that, I did partner up with Zhiyun. I hit up Zhiyun, I was like, guys, I have this really cool video idea. I wanna team up with somebody so I can utilize a gimbal to showcase and to teach people how you can further take your iPhone to the next level with it. Shout out to Zhiyun for partnering up with me so I could do this video. And hopefully everybody who watches this, you actually get some value and you learn some stuff from this. So let's get into it. The motors on this gimbal are really freaking strong. So no matter how you put your iPhone on there, it's most likely going to be able to hold it. This is an ND filter that goes directly onto this iPhone case. I will be sure to include links on everything for you guys. This single piece right here has gotten me to start using my iPhone way more. It just makes life way easier. And then this is a VND. You guys will see later in the video why this is so freaking important for this whole setup here. This is the main trick to get cinematic looking footage like you see in movies and you see Apple showing on the commercials on the iPhone. This is the main trick here. That one little piece, that's gonna do so much for you guys. That's all it is. This is all we're using for the setup. Time to get into what I believe is the biggest reason why, people get these new fancy iPhones with log and they're like, oh, I'm gonna shoot cinematic stuff. I think this is the biggest reason why they kind of missed the mark. Let's get into it. This is the main reason that I think people aren't satisfied and getting the results they imagine they're going to get when they get one of these new iPhones or phones with, all the fancy features. And I think it's because they're using it like a phone. When us filmmakers pick up an iPhone, some of us still use it as if it's a proper cinema camera. So what does that mean? I think a lot of times people get their phone and then, you start filming like this thinking it's gonna look cinematic. But of us filmmakers, we have intention when we go and frame up shots. What does that mean? So we'll start looking for leading lines. We'll start looking for compositions. We look at light. And then the next thing that we'll go over after this is the way we move the camera. That is the biggest, I think, downfall that people have when they pick one of these up. All right, guys, so before we get into the movement, let's go over the gimbal. Again, Zhiyun agreed to partner up with me for this video. Really appreciate it. We'll get into what this is. So real quick with this gimbal, again, super freaking easy to use. All you do, turn it on, put your phone in there. Why do you need a gimbal? Because the iPhone, we already know, has amazing stabilization. For me, this is gonna add a lot more intention. Also, it is gonna help smooth out even more, so your iPhone has to do less work. Overall, you're just gonna get better results, honestly. But this gimbal has some fancy tricks behind it. This thing right here, this is its own little camera that connects with the gimbal. It will track you via AI. It's kind of crazy. I'll show that later in the video. But you'll see we have different modes on here. Right now, we are in the pan follow. So when I do this, the gimbal's gonna go back and forth. But when I do this, you're gonna see the gimbal doesn't move vertical. So if I click mode, it goes into lock mode. Lock mode, basically wherever I take it, the phone's gonna stay in one position. So now we're in follow mode. So you see when I go vertical, the phone will also go vertical. If I go side by side, it'll also go side by side. And then our next mode is POV. So if I go diagonal, it's gonna go diagonal. It's gonna follow whatever. You get really cool, floating shots as if like, a drone was following you or something like that. And then we have a vertical mode, and that's anybody who's like making stuff for TikToks and all that. You can go into vertical mode. We also have a light on here. I'm gonna hold down this light button. We're in Southern California, it's blasting light on me. You're not gonna be able to see the light. But I think for a lot of people who might be using this, for TikToks and social media, I think this light will come in clutch for a lot of guys as a good fill light. Personally, for me, I'm not gonna really use that, just to be honest. But again, a lot of you content creators will probably get a lot of use out of that. Guys, look at this. This is what I have to deal with. This is Connor. He's working on a video of the Black Magic. We're gonna film him. We're gonna get the same shot where you guys know when the gladiator is going through the wheat field and it's backlit. I wanna do that. The fact I wanna do that is because this gimbal is giving me the freedom and control to really treat the iPhone like an actual cinema camera. So let me walk you guys through this and you guys are gonna see the results. A lot of you guys are gonna be like, yo, what the fuck? Like, how is he getting that type of shot on the iPhone? So you can see right here, we have our VND. So I'll be able to dial that in to make sure we have the most important setting set, that setting being our shutter speed. I have my shutter speed set to 180 degrees. Again, that's what's going to give us those smooth filmic results. You can see right here, we are in lock mode. So I'm going to click mode again. And now we are in the follow mode. So whatever I do, the gimbal's going to follow me. On top of that, I'm going to go in slow-mo. So we're in 23 frames per second. I'm going to go to 60 frames per second. So you guys are going to see, I'm going to start in the sky and then I'm going to bring it down as Connor's walking. And we're going to try to get the camera going through all the bushes. So again, if I was using just the iPhone, it's not going to be as smooth as what we're about to get, but two, giving me like a guideline on filmic, cinematic type shot. And action. So, and again, guys, we are filming in slow-mo. Again, if I was just holding the phone, all the little shakes and everything that I'm doing and all the steps, the phone's going to pick that up. And it's going to have to do its own job on trying to digitally stabilize that. So I'm going to do another shot like that. But instead of doing a reveal, I just want to get a shot following Connor with the camera. So we went to the ultra wide lens and I put the gimbal upside down. I'll be able to hold this way down here and film him. I also just changed the mode back to pan follow. So when I tilt like this, you see the camera doesn't move. It's going to stay facing forward. But if I turn, it will turn with us. Action. I'm trying to do my best Brandon Lee ninja walk here. Hopefully we're getting a lot of dust coming off the camera and Connor's boots. While we're doing this, I have an idea to do a reveal. So I'm going to go from Connor's boots. If Sedona will get out of the way, I'm going to start from Connor's boots. I'm going to come up. So that shot right there is probably going to look cool of us going through, Connor try to kick up some dirt. So you guys can see I'm directing Connor. And there we go. Oh, it's going to look sick. Okay. Now I'm filming with the front facing camera. There's no ND on this, so you're going to see what the difference is. This looks like an iPhone. So again, if you want to filmic results, you really need to get ND. You got to utilize all the tools that filmmakers use. The ND that I'm using on this is a very accessible, it's made by Moment. The case is by Moment. The ND just slaps onto there. It just makes it really easy. You don't have to do a bunch of adapter stuff or anything fancy like that. I'm going to flip this thing around right here. I'm going to do this little symbol and you see the camera just turn green. Now the camera will track me. Let's talk a little bit more about this tracking feature because this is what I'm really going to be using this gimbal even more for. I'm going to interrupt you guys real quick. We're halfway through the video, but all the iPhone footage that you have seen in this video so far is graded with my Roadrunner LUTs. I'll have a link in the description if you want to try them out. All you do is just drag and drop. They do everything for you. You don't have to convert them or anything like that. Check those out in the description below. All right, guys. So now I'm going to showcase what that little AI attachment is. It's a whole little camera piece that communicates directly with the gimbal. Look, it accidentally picked me up there. I'm going to click the stop sign, kind of give it away what it does right there. First, I'm going to do the peace sign here. So you guys will see the light in the front just flash blue, and I'm pretty sure it's recording now. So from there, I'm just going to do this okay sign. And now it's tracking me. This is what's freaking crazy about this technology. Instead of you rushing out to Best Buy or Amazon to spend thousands on a whole cinema camera and gimbal setup, you can literally use your damn phone. My DMs get flooded on what camera should I buy, blah, blah, and I always say, start with your phone. If you can master your phone and get really beautiful shots with some of these tips I'm sharing with you guys, phone starts slowing you down, or maybe you have bigger ideas that the phone can't do, that's when you go and invest into a more expensive, larger setup. But in the meantime, there's a lot that you can do with this setup alone. Especially, you can imagine if you guys are a content creator, say if you train dogs, for instance, you could just set this up. Instead of going out and invest in a new camera, this gimbal is under $200. You could just invest into this, and now you could track yourself. You don't have to spend, hundreds of dollars hiring someone to come help you film. You can literally just use this. I'm going to go behind here a little bit. It lost me, but it picks me right back up. This is what's so freaking beautiful about this thing. It lost me. Oh, it picked me right back up. So you see, it's going to follow me vertically. It's going to follow me side by side. Aside from using a gimbal and a camera to get, filmic shots, using leading lines, using intention, treating it like a proper cinema camera, just because it's a phone does not mean you have to use it like a phone. You can use it like a cinema camera. Plus, pairing it up with a gimbal like this and doing the tracking stuff, this tool is just insane. All right, guys, so while Connor's getting ready, I'm going to show you a couple more tips when it comes to, you know, again, just because the iPhone does not mean you have to treat it like so. So I'm gonna treat it like a cinema camera, even when it comes to framing. You can see in my Blackmagic app here, I do have a graph on here. Each point where the lines crisscross, those are your rule of thirds. So you see right here, I have Connor's head and that point right there. And then I have the side of the Bronco on that point right there. Now, a lot of people would probably just to get the shot, would just frame Connor dead center like that. It looks totally fine. But if you want to get a little bit more creative with it, I'd put Connor in that rule of third point right there. And again, that's just going to create a little bit more artistic composition. That's what we're going for here. If you want to really get into it though, we could do a frame like this. And you can see I have Connor in the rule of thirds there. This looks like a beautiful shot. Again, I think most people will probably just do something like this. Even this though, again, Connor's in the rule of thirds. This still honestly looks great, but we could just center him and that's your typical shot. You can see how just moving the camera over right there, how much more cinematic that looks. At least in my opinion, it does. So you can see this is a little bit more like a Wes Anderson inspired frame here. You can see we have Connor directly sideways. We have the Bronco directly sideways, but we're still using our rule of thirds. Now to spice this up even more, we can start adding movement. Again, you don't need a gimbal to do this, but a gimbal is gonna give you a lot more sense of direction and intention, and it is gonna help smooth it out for sure. So I'm just gonna do a push in. I'm gonna record on here as well. So we're just gonna push in. And you guys will see how much more cinematic that is compared to, let me just put the gimbal in sleep mode. Like even without the gimbal, I could still hold that composition, but I think a lot of people would just be doing this, kind of just walking around, you know, getting their shot. Instead, again, I'm gonna utilize my gimbal here. I'm gonna put it into follow mode because I'm gonna push in. And as we get close to Connor, I'm gonna start angling down to the camera and you guys will see how beautiful that looks. We could do it again and I'm gonna have the gimbal go directly over Connor's shoulder onto the camera there. Connor, while you're doing that, if you could try to get some light on the camera maybe. There you go. So you guys will see. And with the gimbal, we'll be able to press past his shoulder, boom. This is what I freaking love about gimbals. Even when we slap, you know, a $10,000 cinema camera onto a gimbal, it brings out these shots out of us. But in order to know about these shots, here's the secret to this. So I know some of you guys might be a little bit overwhelmed with all this information I gave you, and you're gonna be thinking, oh, but like, how am I even supposed to know like what type of moves? You gotta study, you gotta watch movies, maybe go watch some director of photography videos or stills photography can teach you a lot. And what a camera does is you just add movement.
I taught myself with YouTube. Biggest thing for me was just copying other people. So find people that you enjoy and just try to replicate what they do. It's fine to rip them off for a while. You don't want to do that forever. You do want to discover what makes you you and how you compose things. For me, honestly, it's like I watched a lot of Peter McKinnon back in the day. So I was trying my best to copy him because that was basically my school. Another thing you could do is just watch behind the scenes of movies and see how they're moving the camera. I think those things are really going to help you, but you got to want it. If you don't want it and you think you're just going to buy all this stuff and it's going to make you good, it won't.
Well, just for example, guys, you can see this is the Blackmagic Pixis right here. This is a giant cinema camera. A camera like this, you can't just use like an iPhone. You can't just go out and just start moving around like crazy. It's a heavy camera. It takes a lot of work. And that's why a lot of cinematic shots you see in films have intention, because it takes a lot of planning. You want to do storytelling with each shot.
And it's expensive.
Very expensive. So again, everybody who's thinking about, you know, investing in a camera or something like that, if you have an iPhone, maybe just try to get a gimbal for it instead. I'll have a link to this one down in the description. But honestly, I don't care which one you buy. Whatever you get access to, use it as if you're using a large cinema camera like this. Once you guys will start, you know, unlocking that part of your brain, it just becomes a rush of creativity and ideas. So I hope this video inspired you guys to, you know, try out your phone, see what it's capable of, and more importantly, challenge yourself to treat it as if it's a cinema camera. That's it for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. A lot more stuff like this coming on the channel this year. I really want to provide more value, not just to us filmmakers, all of us pretentious, mean filmmakers, but also the normal people out there. Everybody's getting into content creation. Everybody wants to be more creative. So I hope these type of videos help all of you guys. So what do I mean by leading lines and light and blah, blah, blah? Let's utilize this tripod real quick. As you can see, we have a shadow dragging all the way out. That's usually good light to start filming in. But if the shadow is right below the tripod, you're not gonna get that much beautiful light. Why is that? Because everything's just being lit. There's no shadows, there's no depth. That's what this all becomes about, is depth. Now, how do you utilize shadows? One, you can frame it up how we're framed up right now, where there's light just blasting on me, but you'll see the backdrop's gonna look a little bit flat because it also has the same light. So the trick would be kind of have your subject turn this way. So you get a little kiss of light right here and you shoot from the shadow side, just as Connor's doing right now. All of a sudden, there's shadow, there's light, there's shadow, there's light, there's shadow. And most likely, if that's on my face and the camera's angling that way, your backdrop is also gonna have that. So you guys can see in the backdrop over here, the mountainside has shadows on one side and light on the other side. The same with the tree. The tree has shadows on one side and light on the other side. That's the main trick to all of this. You can also backlight it, and you get a rim of light around your subject. You can see on the phone here, there's a rim of light up here, and then everything else is in shadow. So that's the main tricks when it comes to the light. Now let's get into the juicy stuff that has to do more with an actual iPhone, and that has to do with the way you move it. All right, guys, before we go anything crazy, I'm just gonna brush over some of the basics. If you wanna learn more about this, go to that search bar on YouTube and look up, filmmaking basics. The built-in iPhone camera app will let you shoot an Apple log, but only in ProRes. That's gonna eat up a lot of your memory. So what I use is on my action button here, I'm gonna hold this down, and that immediately opens the Blackmagic app. Basically, this lets us do Apple log, but in H.265, H.264, all the ProRes codecs. I have full control. I could change my shutter speed, ISO, white balance, tint, frames per second, all the lenses. Again, I'm not gonna go too deep into all that. I wanna go more over actual filmmaking techniques, not camera settings. I wrote a bunch of notes out because, I'm pretty passionate about this whole conversation that we're having in this video. But with that, I was like, oh, where's my phone? I need to look at my notes. This is the only downside to iPhone filmmaking for me personally, is I utilize my iPhone when it comes to looking at notes, or when you're on actual shoots. There's a lot of contacts. Usually if I'm directing, there's a bunch of people texting and calling me for answers. So using a phone like this, if I was to use this even more, I would need a second phone, honestly, because my iPhone is such a crucial tool when it comes to filmmaking. So personally, that's kind of why I don't use the iPhone sometimes, and other times that's why I'm totally cool with just using an iPhone.